When the roaring sound of hundreds of Harley engines thundered through the small city of Maple Ridge, people thought a riot was breaking out. Police blocked roads. News cameras swarmed. The mayor called an emergency meeting, but no one expected the truth. They weren't there for revenge. They were there for a 12-year-old orphan who'd done something no adult ever dared to do. Rain poured hard that night, painting the city streets in streaks of gray and gold. Beneath an old bridge on the outskirts of Maple Ridge sat Liam, a frail 12-year-old boy with torn sneakers and a backpack that carried his entire world, 2 shirts, a half-empty notebook, and a photo of his parents who died in a car accident 2 years ago. No one knew much about Liam. He didn't beg, he didn't steal. He just survived. Every evening, he'd sit by the roadside diner and wait for leftovers. The waitress, an old lady named Martha, would sometimes slip him a warm bun and a cup of soup. That night, as thunder cracked above, Liam noticed something strange, a loud crash, followed by a desperate cry for help. His instincts kicked in. He grabbed his backpack and ran toward the sound. At the edge of the wet road, a motorcycle had skidded off the curve. The bike lay twisted, and beside it, a man in his late 30s was pinned under the weight, screaming, "Help! My boy! Please, someone help my son!" The man's voice was breaking. His son, no older than 10, was lying a few feet away, bleeding from his head, gasping weakly. Liam froze for a second. Cars kept passing. No one stopped. Then he ran. He dragged the boy out of the puddle, using his own shirt to wrap the wound, just like he'd once seen a nurse do when his mom was alive. "Hey, stay with me!" "You'll be okay," he whispered, his voice trembling. The father, barely conscious, watched as this dirty, soaked orphan pressed on his son's chest, doing weak but determined compressions. When the ambulance finally arrived, the paramedics took over. "Who found them?" one asked. The officer pointed to Liam, shivering barefoot and covered in mud. The paramedic nodded in disbelief. "Kid probably saved the boy's life." Liam smiled faintly, then walked away before anyone could ask his name. The city hospital, Ryder, the leader of the Steelhawks motorcycle club, sat beside his son's bed. His boy, Ethan, had survived, but just barely. Doctors said whoever stopped the bleeding and did CPR made the difference between life and death. Ryder was no ordinary man. He was a tough, tattooed biker known across states, someone you didn't cross. Yet that night, he couldn't stop thinking about the small boy described by witnesses. Barefoot backpack, maybe 12. For the first time in years, the biker with a reputation of iron found himself praying to find that boy. Days passed. Liam had gone back to scavenging and drawing sketches in his notebook, pictures of a happy family he could only dream of having. But fate had other plans. One morning, as he stood outside the diner, the ground began to tremble, not from an earthquake, but from engines. Dozens, then hundreds of motorcycles roared through the main street. Leather jackets with Steelhawks MC stitched on the back glistened under the sun. People peeked from windows. Some screamed, others ran. The entire city seemed to freeze. At the front of the convoy rode Ryder himself. When he stopped in front of the diner, silence filled the air. He got off his bike, his boots splashing in the puddle, and looked straight at the boy sitting on the sidewalk, eating a crust of bread. "Kid." Ryder's deep voice cracked. "You the one who saved my boy." Liam looked scared, unsure how to answer. He nodded quietly. Ryder didn't say a word. He walked closer, then knelt down in front of him. Tears welled in his eyes. "You saved my son's life, and you vanished like a ghost. I've been looking for you, Liam." He took off his leather jacket, the Steelhawks emblem blazing on the back, and wrapped it around Liam's shoulders. The crowd gasped. "That jacket," whispered someone, "only full members get it." Ryder smiled through tears. "From now on, kid, you're family." Then he turned to his bikers. "Brothers, let the city know who this boy is." The engines roared to life again, but not in anger. They circled the streets, forming a parade. Riders handed out food to the homeless. They blocked intersections, not in protest, but to protect the orphan who'd once been invisible. News reporters called it the day the city stood still for an orphan. Months later, Liam sat on a new porch outside a small house near the countryside. His house. Ethan, now healed, played beside him. Ryder watched them from the yard, arms folded, a proud smile on his face. "Family ain't about blood, kid," Ryder said softly. "It's about who shows up when no one else does." And for Liam, the boy who once had no one, the rumble of engines in the distance no longer meant fear. It meant home. One act of kindness can change not just a life, but an entire city. Sometimes the smallest hands carry the biggest hearts.